Hey guys, okay, so this video is gonna be based on my father's story because I didn't think it would be fair for me to just discuss my mother's story. I know I've talked about my mom pretty much my entire freaking channel. But I've always had something to say about how I was raised from my mother, but I've never really got into the details with with her, but really my father either. Like I've never got a chance to really discuss about how the relationship was with my father 100% of the way. I think I have. I just have not like dedicated a video to him. I've dedicated a video to my mother, I think. Yeah, but I didn't include that in the title. But I want to dedicate this video to my father, who passed away in 2012, for multiple reasons. I've always said that, my mother raised us and she kept us away from my father because she was really upset with him, but she also didn't feel like he was a good fit. However, there were times where my father tried to come look for us, because my mother kept us away from our entire family, basically. There is some things to where that goes along with this. Let's see, my father was the only child, just pretty much. Okay, he was the only child. Um, he did marry my mother before they split up, and actually, I wish I could get the whole side of the story, but I can only give you to what I was told. Some things I know I didn't really need an explanation because I can kind of put the picture together. But my father was an alcoholic. He did drink a lot, and he did turn to the alcohol probably a little bit more after the split up between my mother and him. I have another brother. I have two brothers, but one of my brothers, we share the same mom and same father. We moved. My mother and my father got married in the early 90s. I'm having to say in 1990, 1991. Or it could have been 89, but I believe it was 1991. And then she was pregnant with my brother Charles at the time, and after they got married, they waited a year and ended up having me. And when I turned 5 years old, we moved to North Carolina, but it was just me, my brother, and my mother. We got on a Greyhound, we came to North Carolina. My mother got into some trouble in the streets, and she really feared for her life, so she decided to flee Washington, D.C., and leaving me. She didn't leave me, she left leaving me without family, because my grandmother was there taking care of us, taking care of us, our aunt and our cousins, everyone was there. So she pretty much took me and my brother to North Carolina, and she left my other brother behind because she was going through some issues with his father, and she just was in this moment to where she needed to make a quick decision to get up and leave because she was in trouble with someone in the streets, and they were after to harm her, and they were really looking for her. So she didn't have time to really tell her mother what was going on, because she would try to convince her to stay, and only she knew how serious it was for her to kind of leave. And however, she told her sister not to tell my grandmother, so my sister kept it quiet. So my mother ended up getting a Greyhound ticket and coming to coming to North Carolina. We ended up in Asheboro. My grandmother actually said that she was coming home one day and she bought some groceries because there were no food in the house. So she came home from work. When she got off of work, she stopped at the grocery store and she bought so much food. My grandma bought so much food. And it was so much, it was like, oh my gosh, like she needed help carrying it up the stairs. It was like bags of food. So I'm talking about stuff to go in your cabinets, refrigerator, freezer. It was so much stuff. But my grandmother was really helping taking care of us because we were her grandchildren, and that was my mother's mom, so I mean, of course she would take care of her grandchildren because she loved them just as well as she loved her children. So unfortunately, my grandmother did not know what type of how much trouble my mother was in the streets. So my grandmother stopped by and she knocked on the door, and I think she said she had a key, and she let someone else from the apartment complex open the door and let her in. And by the time she got in the house, everything was gone. Nobody was there. She took everything with her, and it was just an empty house, and she did not know what was going on. And so by that time, my mother and me and my brother were already on the Greyhound, headed to North Carolina. And we ended up in Asheboro, and eventually we moved to High Point because there was a big flood in Asheboro, and the city was just like out there, like it was like horrible. So we ended up moving to High Point in about a few months down the line after that. Let's see. So bottom line is that even though my mother got in trouble in the streets and she was running away, she also was running away from the relationship between my father and us and her building and him being a part of the family. And it got to the point to where, my father ended up looking for us himself with his mother, which is my other grandmother, on my father's side. His mom, they came down into the Greyhound. They came down here one year, some years later, and they wanted to look for us because they had no idea where we were, but they asked around. By this time, it took years for them to try to look for us because my mother kept dodging her number. She didn't want them to know what number she had. If my mother had called him for us to speak to him over the phone, it would be every blue moon, but then she would change her number so they wouldn't call back. And then if they found out where she was located, if they've gotten to reach her through like the government, and they found out where she were or where we were going to school, she would immediately get us out of school and switch schools, and we pretty much were going back and forth, and we didn't even get a chance to be settled. But however, we did finish school, but we switched schools a lot because she was really dodging our father. So she was really upset with my father, and then she was also like doing the wrong things herself, which made her not be a great fit for relationship building. But it wasn't the fact that, well, it is the fact, no matter what, my father did do something to try to get in touch with us. He was really hurt because he wanted to get in contact with us, and, and her as well, but, she was just so full of hate and anger, and she did not want to get any type of contact with her at all. So it was really, really, in contact with him. So she was really hurt and really upset. But she was really, that was really kind of unfair, because even though she had children by him, she was still kind of in the wrong for keeping us away from our father. I mean, literally. Um, because I asked my grandmother that. I said, well, did you ever keep, you said you didn't get along. I asked my grandma, I said, Grandma, did you get along with, you told me you didn't get along with um, with my mom's father, did you? She said, yeah. She said, we had our ups and downs, but Chris, I never ever stopped your mother from seeing her father. If he wanted to be around and do something with your mother, I never stopped that. I never stopped that. I said, wow. So this is why I see why I'm so upset over her, because she had good examples, but she chose to do otherwise. So long story short, I ended up going up there to DC to go see my grandmother on my father's side, and she was telling me the story about how my mother and my father were really close. They were really together. They always went out on dates and partied and things like that. And then she started getting hooked on drugs and started seeing other men. And then from then, she just started to disappear and not be around the family a lot. In which, my mother would say that other things had happened and she didn't feel welcomed. But once you get hooked on drugs, you're kind of like a different person. So it's not that, I should be taking sides here, but I should be looking at the facts and determining, what's the major issue and what's really wrong. So, long story short, my father ended up, we went up there to DC to go visit my father one last time, because he came to North Carolina one time when we were like in our teenage years. And he was really upset because we did not come out there and look for him, but we did. We were children being raised in an environment thinking that we were not allowed to go talk to him because of the bad stories that she had, and the fact that she kept saying that I'm not going to let you see your father because he's going to try to keep you guys up there. But that's like the wrong thing to say to your children, because we have nothing to do with you guys' relationship and why you guys are upset. If anything, he's trying to build and you're not trying to work through that. And so she was hurt and angry, and she did everything out of anger to the fact that it came to him passing away. My father passed away, and then she felt bad about it. So it was kind of hurtful because we end up having to go to the funeral right after everything has happened. And like, while we're going to the funeral, why are you making us go to the funeral, and why are you going to the funeral like you're trying to support him when you didn't even show support before then? So it was almost like you want me to feel sympathy for this, and I can't feel sympathy for you at all. I have the biggest heart in the world, but I cannot feel sympathy for this. It's like we have literally been raised in an environment thinking that we had a bad father and he was this and he was that, but the whole time as we got older, it was some lifestyle things that she needed to work on that she was not doing correctly, and it made the situation the way that it was. So I don't even I can't sugarcoat anything. I have to give it to you the way that it is. So before my father passed away, we went up there to Washington, D.C., and we visited my father before he passed away, and he was starting to get sicker and sicker, and he ended up passing away from alcoholism and some more issues he had with his body. But you can imagine, because my grandmother on my father's side would say, well, your father really wasn't doing anything, but until he really wanted to start doing something, it was too late. So it was almost like he wasn't doing what he was supposed to do, because even if your mother is keeping you away from your father, you would try all your power, your will, no matter what, to get to your children to do for them? Wouldn't you try to do that? You would. And I did feel that, and it really sunk down in me and got to me. And I was like, wow, yeah, if I had a child and the mother of my child left me and she had my children, and she kept dodging my number or kept dodging, the relationship, would I try my hardest to try to get to my children? Yes, I would. I would do that. But then I was trying to say, you have to realize the amount of threats and fear she put in him to stay away from us. That's another thing. When a woman starts to threaten, my father was the only child, not to mention that. When you start to threaten and put fear in their heart not to ever get in contact with my children, don't come near my children, this and that and the third, and you're pulling out child support issues and things like that, that is a really big issue. So I cannot pinpoint and say, well, yeah, I understand what she's saying 100%, because a lot of that stuff is out of hurt and out of hatred, and just to get back, it's out of revenge, and that's not fair at all. So I don't feel any sympathy for not feeling 100% sad for the situation or bad for her. I kind of feel bad for him, and plus we never really even got a chance to meet our father like that. Because my mother was so upset with him, she kept us away from him, and that's kind of like something that the Bible tells you not to do. You're supposed to be sharing, especially if it's a mother and father. You're not supposed to just take one and keep the other one who had helped make the child away because you want to get revenge back. Plus, over top of you choosing a lifestyle of choosing drugs and money over life and over another human being and your children. I can see that why my father did not want to pay child support. But I can actually see that. Now, you might think that's weird, but I can see why my father did not want to pay child support. For one, he knew how money hungry my mother was. He knew how she would really take the money and just do something totally different with it. And I have to be honest with you. Even I've seen that while I was growing up. For each child, you would get close to $4,500 for a child. We have been years and years and years without a vehicle. Okay, so you have a mother that is being abusive to drugs, and then you have nothing to show for it when tax time gets here, or you've never had a job and held one, and we've wanted and needed for so many things, and we struggled a lot while growing up. It just shows for itself. You have done the wrong thing with the money, and you have been greedy, and you have not managed, and you have not done the right thing that you are supposed to do with the money, or to your children, or for yourself. So, it's child support is not even in the Bible anyway. You're supposed to be there for your child and help them. Get the things that they need and what they want and help them. You're not supposed to be paying for child support and then don't be there. You're supposed to be there. So you just got to think about it. We've never ever had a car. when my mother's, well, I'm gonna have to say my mother never had a car while she was raising us. Because she just decided to do the wrong things with the money that she got. She wasn't putting it towards some things. She was putting it towards aiding for the family, but the majority of that stuff, 89% of that stuff, 93, was not beneficial towards aiding for her children or herself. So I mean, it's not that I should it's not that I'm talking bad about it. I'm just giving you the honest truth of what happened. It might seem sad that I'm actually explaining it to you, but that's the truth. I can't make this stuff up. Not everyone grew up in a household where it was a great foundation and a great environment, but some of your strongest individuals come up out of that and are able to testify and heal other people. You know, some people who grew up in an environment like that, that's so tragic, they end up being in a tragic situation themselves, and they don't confess or testify in a good way because they have shown and demonstrated their pain throughout hurting other people. But you get some individuals who grew up in a tragic environment who are able to get out and talk about it instead of showing out in ways that would cause them to be hurt in the future or hurting other people. Both ways. So that was pretty much it. So right now, and my father always stayed with my grandmother on my father's side with his mother. He's always stayed there. Now, it was a point in time where my mother and my father lived together, and we lived together as a family. But again, you know, I'm hearing people say that my father chose the streets and stuff like that. And then I'm hearing that, you know, because I've seen my mother's lifestyle, and I can't really talk so much about my father because I wasn't really there to really see, but I'm able to identify the outer stages about what is really going on. And I'm able to see the rebellious type of characteristics my mother has demonstrated. So it's not hard to put the pieces together. And that's pretty much it. You know, there are some mothers out there who are single parents who do a great job. They interact with their children. They carry themselves the right way. They just have good characteristics about themselves. Their spirit is there, and they have morals, respectful responsibility, and they know how to become established and do for the people that they love. You know, that's something that God appreciates. And then you get some single mothers, like in my case, that my mother really, her lifestyle was like completely out of order, and my grandmother was trying to get her to get her life back in track, but she was just so rebellious to the fact that, you know, she took her own lifestyle and thought that it would end up one way, but it ended up another way. And now it's kind of hard for her to grasp a hold of reality, because this is what it has happened. This is what she has caused. She's had the people in her family aid and help her and encourage her and uplift her, but she pushed the people that wanted to help her away, and now she has to face reality and suffer. And it's sad because I love her so much. I wanted to see her do a whole lot better, because by growing up with her, I didn't even feel that way about her. Now, as I got older, I started to see the bigger picture of things, and it's kind of like, I really don't know what else to say about that. I don't know what else to say about that. I pretty much said everything. So yeah, my father has been, let's see, he passed away September 21st, 2011. It was the year before I graduated high school, and like when we went to the funeral, it was just like, oh my gosh, Chris, your mother literally was trying to get revenge back on your father by not letting you see your father for these years, and now all of a sudden he passes away, your mom feels bad, and we go to the funeral. Like, some people was like, wait, why did she bring you to the funeral to show support and care if she didn't throughout all these years? What is that? People did not understand that. I'm not sure how well my brother's coping with it, but I'm pretty sure he feels the same way I feel, but I know we have different feelings. just it's like one in a lifetime thing. Not many parents do that. Well, take that back. Some parents do keep their children away from the father, but I've seen even when mother and fathers don't get along with each other and separated, I've even seen where the mother still allowed the father to come in and do for the child if you want to be a part of aiding for that child. Like, but if you have a parent that has refused that from happening, then if you feel that your children are not happy with the relationship that goes on between them and you, then that is the reason why. It's not about what the child feels, it's about how they have grown up. What have you demonstrated to that child? And everybody has to go through this. It's not just you and your parent, it's your parent and your parents' parents and how they were raised. Also, it's kind of like a life story type of thing repeating itself, but you have to be the one to kind of break the cycle. So that's pretty much it. And yep, that's the story of my father. I don't even know if yours is similar, but you can put your comments down on the section. I've talked about my father. I talked about my mother, but I haven't necessarily talked about my father as much. But I'll get the story of my grandmother soon because she has a really good story. And I hope you guys heard me because I couldn't talk that loud. I'm inside of a restaurant. I didn't want to be too loud. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later on. I have to go charge my phone. Not here, I got to go somewhere else and charge it. Bye.